Tonight, the investigation into the Nolan Wells death bombshell. Joining us tonight, Nolan's friends' lawyers fight back. Who's telling the truth? They think they know, but do they? I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. There's a big honking mark, subcutaneous, deep reddening tissue on his occipital. If I hit somebody in the back of the head, it'd be right there.
There was no indication that there was any kind of contusions on the hand, the arm, no kind of defensive event.
Back to Officer Tatum, star of The Officer Tatum on YouTube. Have the friends taken polygraphs?
Well, from my understanding, all but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me that they all passed. And all of the ones that took a polygraph took one without a lawyer. And they cooperated with law enforcement. So from my understanding, everybody took a polygraph test. Why do you say that's
from what you understand? Did they tell you they took a poly and passed?
Yes, ma'am. They told me that they did it. I wasn't there. So that's what I'm saying from my understanding. They told me that all the boys except one, which is Warren, I believe, took a polygraph test. All of them did not have lawyers and did it and cooperated with police. Warren also cooperated with police. I just believe he didn't take a lie detector test, but Warren is the young man that I interviewed. So according to what they told me, they all took a lie detector test and passed. And it's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's not a traditional lie detector test, but it's the same theology of trying to get to if a person is lying. I don't know the name of it. It's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's a different methodology. I don't believe it was a polygraph test. I believe they took other stressors in order to analyze if the people were telling the truth or not. So then the answer to
did they take a polygraph would be no. That is Officer Tatum from The Officer Tatum on YouTube. Joining us tonight are two very special guests. They are convinced of the friends, and when I say quoties, I don't mean they are or they're not friends, because I don't know. The young men on the Triton boat that took Nolan Wells to Horn Island. Many argue he was on the boat on the return when foul play occurred. Many argue he was not. In fact, the timeline has blown up because there are reports that Nolan Wells was seen on the island after the friend's boat left, which would exonerate them. Is that true? I don't know, and I'm trying to find out. For me, nobody's guilty and everybody's a suspect because we don't know the truth yet, but we will. Joining us tonight, Tyler Cox, the lawyer for several of the young men, with the law firm Taylor and Cox, him being the Cox. Also with us, another veteran trial lawyer, Edward Pulsick, attorney for the boys as well. Actually, they're not boys. They're adults in the eyes of the law due to their age. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us tonight. My first question to clear up this matter.
Any lawyer worth their salt is going to tell their clients not to take a polygraph test under any circumstances. That is the sound of a defense. A fortress built on legal strategy, not innocence. It's the sound of a story collapsing under its own weight. Picture this: a boat, the Triton, adrift in the Gulf. Around it, a fleet of party boats, hundreds of people, music drinking. A perfect chaotic alibi. That's the visual anchor for this case. A crime scene that looks like a party. But when you listen to what isn't being said, you start to wonder if the party was a cover for something else entirely. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Project Cold Case. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. The story begins on the water. It's a scene of total, overwhelming chaos. The lawyers for the friends who were with Nolan Wells on Horn Island. They don't want to talk about polygraphs.
She's 14. That said, We won the case. But fast forward about 10 months later, I was walking through the grand jury room and I saw these horrible federal court sketches. I'm like, oh my stars, is that who I think it is? It was my vice cops. They had been stealing from dopers and they got indicted by the feds. And I had been out on the street with them every day for months trying to prove a child trafficking case. So, just because somebody tells you the sky is blue does not mean the sky is blue. You do know that, right?
Well, I can tell you this: they were off Horn Island at 4:30 p.m. on July 4th, and Nolan Wells was seen alive.
Now we're getting somewhere. How can you prove that to me other than them telling you? I assume you've got GPS tracking and the call to CTO?
We have witnesses among other things, but I can also tell you this: they were off the island at 4:30 p.m. and Nolan Wells was seen alive by multiple people at 6 p.m. still on the island. And I'm sure Tyler would be happy to elaborate on that. But this is a no doubt 100%.
Please tell me, Tyler.
Yes.
Because I don't believe any of these people, and I don't disbelieve any of these people. I want to hear about witnesses that spotted him alive after 4:30. Because I believe I can confirm the boat left around 4:30. And I'm referring to the Triton, the Triton. That's the boat they were on. There are a lot of boats. Let's see the video of all the boats out there. So when I say Triton, I'm talking about the boat Nolan was on the way to the island. There's a lot of boats out there and a lot of witnesses too. This is from the Officer Tatum. Okay, there are witnesses placing him there at 6. And I want to be very clear, gentlemen, that I'm not convinced he drowned just because somebody said so. Even if he did drown, that does not mean...
They want to talk about the timeline. They want us to believe that the case is simple, that their clients left the island at 4:30 p.m. and that Nolan Wells was spotted alive by witnesses at 6:00 p.m. 2 confirmed witnesses, they say, who came forward to police. They claim their clients are innocent because they simply weren't there. They can't do 2 things at once, the lawyer says. They can't be on the island at 6 hours and be on the boat gone off the island at 4:30 died. It's a clean, logical argument. It's the kind of argument that sounds like a slam dunk in a courtroom. But the problem is, we don't know who those witnesses are. We don't know if they were drinking. We don't know if they knew Nolan. It's a convenient alibi, but is it the truth?
But they're the ones that came forward to police and investigators, and that's their story to tell. What I'm telling you is they made a positive ID on Nolan Wells around 6 o'clock, and they told that to investigators, all while our clients were off the island around 4:30. So we have positive identification on Nolan on the island an hour and a half after our clients left. So, as you know from your experience as a prosecutor, they can't do 2 things at once. They can't be on the island at 6 o'clock and be on the boat gone off the island at 4:30. So that's where we are. Our clients have nothing to do with the death of Nolan Wells. We don't know how he died. We want to know. Please tell us. Somebody. We want to know just as much as anyone else. Our clients loved Nolan Wells. They were brothers to Nolan Wells. I've still yet to hear one bad thing about Nolan Wells. He was a good Ocean Springs kid. Just as Chuck Bordees says all the time in the courtroom, these are good Ocean Springs people. So Nolan was a good Ocean Springs person too. They love Nolan. We want to know. Will someone please
just stop right there,
tell us?
Tyler. Tyler, I've got 1 hour, and nobody's running for miscongeniality. Let's just let it be noted, judicial notice. They were all good. Everybody's good. Okay. Tyler.
Yes.
The witnesses that came forward, here's something that would tend to corroborate them is if multiple witnesses said the same thing. Witnesses separated in time and space, witnesses that are not all friends, witnesses that are not good friends with your clients, that may...
I believe you, Nancy Grace says. But just because somebody says so, don't make it so. This is where the story starts to fray. The lawyers Tyler Cox and Edward Polsick are fighting a PR war as much as a legal one. They are on every show. They are shouting their client's innocence from the rooftops. We've shouted it from the rooftops. Cox says, The same story over and over again. It's a classic strategy. When the evidence is thin, you create a narrative. But the problem with a narrative is that it can't survive contact with the facts. The defense claims the boat was offered to law enforcement, but it hasn't been searched. Not with luminol, not with scent dogs, not with cadaver dogs. Why in the world would these witnesses make themselves public? Ed Pulsick asks, after you've seen more than 30 days of death threats. It's a fair question, but it's also a deflection. The question isn't why the witnesses won't come forward. The question is, why won't the evidence speak for itself? If authorities thought that there was something to find on that boat, don't you?
But yet they were texting her. They did know her name.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that characterization. Yeah, the
Well,
premise,
enlighten me. I want to
is
know.
flawed. Yeah, the premise is flawed. She's not part of their friend group. They don't know her. I can tell you that it does appear, once again, it appears that Nolan was with this young lady for much of the day. That does seem to be confirmed by many witnesses. And I can tell you this, Nancy, one thing about this island, I did have the opportunity to go to Horn Island. And when you go to the island, everything starts to make sense. The first picture was maybe not so accurate. If you go to the part of Horn Island where, these events all occurred, you see that there are really no trees on that part of the island. It's flat, it's open, there are no visual obstructions, so there's no trees, there's no shelter, there's no nothing, and it was broad daylight with thousands of people there, meaning there was no opportunity for foul play during daylight hours. And that's where this whole thing starts to unravel.
Ed,
you have to go to the island.
Please,
you have to go to the
There's opportunity for foul play. He could have been whacked on the head on a boat and pushed over.
I'm telling you, not in this environment.
It doesn't have to be on the beach. It could be anywhere.
You got to understand, it's a 10-mile long barrier island, but it's only a few hundred yards wide in most places. There's nowhere to hide.
Let me see the video and show it to Ed and Tyler. The video of all those boats. Anything could have happened between those boats. Anything.
Well, but
even
an
accident could happen between those boats. And
Nancy,
so many people are drunk. I don't think they're paying.
Think this far out, they would already done it. Nancy Grace asks, it's a critical question. It suggests that the authorities don't think there's enough evidence to even bother. That's a powerful, damning statement. The silence of the investigation is a verdict in itself. But there's a ticking clock moment here, and it's not just about a local tragedy. The Congressional Black Caucus has called on the Justice Department to launch an independent federal review of Nolan Wells' death. This isn't just a headline. This is a national security adjacent issue now. A young black man is dead, his family is demanding answers, and the local investigation appears to be stalling. The question is, will the federal government have to do what the local authorities won't? And what does it say about the state of justice in America if they have to?
The things that we knew when we were going to come on with you is, we know you're going to ask us tough questions. We know you're going to ask us tough questions. And we're happy to answer them as best we can. But one thing we've been very consistent about, there are so many things we don't know, right? We won't be able to answer all of your tough questions. And the reason we can't is because we just don't know the answer to a lot of them. But we do know what we know. We know they were off that island at 4:30. We know Nolan was on the island at 6. We just want to emphasize our humility in that regard because we just don't know, and we would love to know. We want to know how this tragedy happened as much as anyone, more than anyone.
I want both of you gentlemen to understand something. If I thought I had convicted the wrong person, I couldn't live with myself.
Sad.
I personally investigated every case I ever tried and put before a jury. I do not want the wrong person, an innocent person, to suffer claims and allegations, much less go to jail. But I do want the right person, if there is a right person.
Right, if there is.
Which leads me to, I want to believe you and I want to believe your clients. But for me, everything is what can I prove? What can I prove? They say so, so what? Prove it to me. Let me ask you this. Do you know where Nolan's phone is? Anybody? Can
Today?
anybody tell me where Nolan's phone is?
Good
Right
question.
now, as we sit here today,
Has it ever been turned over to authorities?
no, it has not.
You're sure?
Yeah, I believe that Ben Crump.
The case hinges on the C-Tau call. It's the Rosetta Stone of this mystery. The defense claims that the audio is fake. Tyler Cox says, it doesn't change the fact that just because you put words over some audio means that those words are now attributable. It's a clever argument, but it's a straw man. The issue isn't that someone put words on the audio. The issue is that the audio itself, in its raw form, appears to be a chaotic mess that doesn't exonerate anyone. The defense wants us to believe that the Triton left at 4:30 and that Nolan was alive at 600. But if that were true, the C-Tau call, which happened at the same time the boat was leaving, would have no relevance. But it does have relevance, because the call is the only piece of evidence that places the boys and the boat in the same place at the same time. And if that audio is real, it tells a story that is completely at odds with the defense narrative. An 8 to 12-inch area of deep soft tissue discoloration at the back of Nolan Wells' skull was found during the independent autopsy. His throat was removed by the medical examiner. He flunked a polygraph. No. But his friends are saying they all passed. The truth is a moving target. And that leads us back to the central question. Who was the last person with Nolan Wells? The lawyers want you to believe that the story ends at 4:30 and 600. But the story doesn't end. It just gets more complicated. We are left with more questions than answers. The truth is that we don't know what happened to Nolan Wells. And that is the most damning fact of all. I want to believe you, Nancy Grace says. But wanting isn't proving. End of story, the lawyer says. But it isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Go to the public docket for the Jackson County, Mississippi Sheriff's Department. Look for any record of a search warrant for the boat or the phones. Read the Department of Marine Resources incident report. And then ask yourself this one question in the comments. If you had nothing to hide, why would you need an alibi at all? We want to hear what you think. Like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Project Cold Case.
And why, tonight, 1 month later, do we not know the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells? If you know or think you know anything regarding this case, and I implore the FBI to enter the investigation, dial 228-769-3063. Repeat, 228-769-3063. There is a $125,000 reward for information leading to the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells. I also implore you, please, we can take the trolling online, don't care, but the death threats, no. To anybody, let the law unfold as it should. We remember an American hero, Chief William Rosen, Neptune Township, EMS, New Jersey, killed in the line of duty, leaving behind a wife turned widow, Kristen, and an only son, Sebastian. American hero, Chief William Rosen. Thank you to our guests for being with us tonight, and hopefully they will accept my invitation to join me again. But especially to you for being with me tonight and every night here on Crime Stories as we seek to further the investigation into the death of Nolan Wells. Nancy Grace signing off for tonight, but God willing, I'll see you tomorrow night, and until then, good night, friend. Hi, guys. Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. And if you're on the go, please join us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all our content, where we, in our way, seek justice.